Brandon, thank you for, taking the time out to come up here. I know you're a busy man. But Nikki's been talking about you and your professionalism for a long time. And I think one of the greatest compliments that he's ever made was that he knew for sure that you could go anywhere in the world and outfish anybody on in those home waters.
No, that's not what I said. What I said was, I believe anywhere Brandon would guide, he would learn and be the best in any environment.
Didn't I just say that?
No, it's a little different.
But basically, your level of professionalism is a head and shoulders above everybody else. And I think that's a great compliment because the Roaring Fork Valley's got so many great guides, and I'd love to talk to you about growing up. You're a fifth generation of this valley. Your dad is a taxidermist in Basalt that we've used over a number of years. And matter of fact, I was thinking about maybe we need to get a meat cooler, right? And we were talking this fall before the season how enthusiastic we were about getting a meat cooler and having your dad build it, and then we didn't kill anything. It's like, well, I guess we don't need a meat cooler,
Oh, so you guys did build a meat cooler?
We haven't, but this fall we were talking. We got to get one because I had this.
We were a little cocky.
Grandeur.
We were a little cocky.
We're gonna kill one in Colorado. We're gonna kill two in Wyoming. Blank.
Well, they are nice. All you need is a shed and insulate it and air conditioning unit.
Yeah. Let's go back to those early days of your fifth generation family here in the Roaring Fork Valley. Your dad was a sheriff in Garfield County.
My grandfather on my dad's side was the sheriff at Garfield County.
Okay. Was your dad always a taxidermist?
Yes. He had a passion for it from a young age. He worked for Tees down in Carbondale. I think that's where he apprenticed at.
Uh-huh.
And then I think he did it for a number of years. I remember my parents' first house was in Blue Lake,
right,
down in Elgibel, Colorado, and he did it out of his garage. And I remember, he worked up in Snowmass at top of the village. He was the maintenance manager by day. And then at night, I remember him as a little kid, he would come home and be out in the garage doing taxidermy.
Wow.
So then we ended up, my parents sold that place, and then we moved into Basalt. And in Basalt, where the taxidermy shop is now, that was just a garage. And he converted it into a taxidermy shop. And so for years, they had a property management business, and all of us kids worked for him. That was one of my wintertime jobs. I was a snow removal guy, plowing, shoveling snow. And but he always had the taxidermy business, and the property management business got so busy that he kind of did it just part-time. And then, when they retired from the property management, he said, I'm going to do this full-time. And so he does it full-time. Not my passion in life. He loves it, and he wanted me to kind of get into it, but I don't like working with dead things. I like living things. And especially some of the stuff he gets that comes in there from time to time.
Oh, nasty.
I have no idea how he does it. He's got an iron stomach. Because I'm always the one that's gagging, like, I ain't touching that
thing.
Just like rotten bears and coyotes and nasty.
It's just hunters. They kill something, and then
they don't take care of it.
They put the head in their shed for 2-3 weeks, and then they go, I got to bring that to the... Oh, yes. Oh, no.
Just
right.
Maggots.
Oh, maggots. I remember, that was one of my high school jobs. He would need help fleshing hides up in the taxidermy shop. And the weirdest thing is it's like you have a deer and elk, and, the cape gets frozen or put in the refrigerator, and then you got to flesh all the meat off of it. And I remember this one, I think it was an elk. I was fleshing the hide on it, and I felt something crawling up on my leg, and it was a tick. The ticks were falling out of that hide. And I remember just being like, this is the worst ever. I'm like, I don't know how you deal with this, Dad. But I remember them on the floor, and they were just like coming back to life and like crawling for something warm. Yeah.
So was your dad was your dad a fisherman?
He was a fisherman. He used to take me fishing when I was a little kid. It was, I remember, days. And because my passion always growing up was fishing. A lot of kids have like Saturday morning cartoons. I was watching Bill Dance and Jimmy Houston and what was the other one? Roland Martin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Roland Martin?
Sure.
Yep. So I remember watching them bass fishing because there really wasn't a lot of fly fishing shows on the Tennessee network. What was that? That was not TNN.
TNT.
No, it was the Tennessee network. I remember it was like Channel 12 or something. And I remember every Saturday morning I'd like, because I grew up, I had this bunk bed in my room and I slept on the lower bunk, and on the top bunk was all my fishing poles. I can call them poles because they were spinning rods. And they were all my fishing poles up there, and I would sit up there for hours and rigging, we live in Colorado. We live in trout world. But I was out there rigging lizards, and, I just found it so fascinating, just everything they did. So, and then I remember at one point, I think it was Fly Fishing America, finally came on that network, and I got to watch Fly Fishing America. And what was his name? It was,
I know John Barrett had Fly Fishing the World. Fly Fishing America, I do remember that, but I don't remember.
Wasn't Kyle Holt on that?
He was on that. And so later on, that's why I'm trying to remember the guy's name who was the host of the show. I can't remember it, but I remember them fly fishing somewhere, and I was just like, oh, I got to try this. This looks so awesome. So I told my parents, I want to try fly fishing. And my dad had connections with Western Anglers. Do you remember Western Anglers down in Elgibel?
Yeah.
Yeah, Western Anglers with Robert and Sarah Woods. And I remember Christmas morning, I'd asked them, I said, I want to get a fly rod for Christmas. I remember Christmas morning, they went over and I got a Scott SVS, a 586. I still have the rod. I don't use it anymore. It's in a tube. I've saved it. It's like one of my cherished things that I keep. And that's what they got me. It was a 586 SVS. So I figured out how to, I had flies, indicators, some weight, and I figured out, and I remember it was a red disco midge. That was my first fly I tied on. And in Blue Lake, there was a creek that ran through there, and I had caught all those fish on Rapalos and spoons, and, I loved all that.
You knew them all by name.
I knew them all by name. We used to get some giant brown trout that ran out of Blue Lake into the stream that run up, especially in the fall, to go spawn.
Sure.
And I remember I went out there Christmas Day. I rode my bike over through the snow. And I went to one of my favorite spots, and I threw the red disco midge in. And I caught about an 8-inch brown trout. And I go, wow, this is cool. That point on, I was hopelessly addicted to fly fishing.
Interesting. Did you have any heroes by chance? Fly fishing icons on TV that you looked up to, or was it always about the fish that you wanted to go chase?
It was, I didn't, because the fly fishing shows were so limited at that time. I always watched Bill Dance and Jimmy Houston and Roland Martin. That was who I watched growing up, and so, fly fishing at that point had taken off for me. And then my parents got me like a introductory fly tying kit. And so I learned how to tie flies off of this kit. They give you the hooks and some peacock herring and some red yarn. That was my next era. And then at that point, we had moved from Elgibel and we moved to Basalt. And that opened up a whole new world, because where they lived there in Basalt, they had a little creek in the backyard, and then they had the Roaring Fork River in the back. And I remember my mom always telling me, like, don't go out to the river. You stay on the creek, because I was probably 11, 12 years old at the time when they did that. And so bad me, you went
right to the river.
Well, no, the creek had fish in it. There was about maybe 12, 14 fish. At one point in time, and my dad paid someone to stock it, so I would stay there and catch the stocked rainbows, But they all swam. The majority of them swam upstream. But I remember catching all those rainbows out there, and But the river always called me, so I would sneak out there. And I remember my mom being so mad at me, for sneaking out to the river and going fishing. So, but at that point, as I got a little bit older, I started walking up the Roaring Fork, and then I'd take the confluence where the Fryingpan dumps in, and I would walk up and I would go see Taylor Creek.
You'd fish up to the store? To
the store, and I'd go in there and I'd buy 1 or 2 flies. A lot of the times I'd be looking up at the trees like, oh, there's somebody's fly that they lost. I'd be reaching up with my rod tip. That's how I broke my Scott SVS the first time. Was trying to pull someone's fly out of the tree so I could get it. So I'd buy 1 or 2 flies, and I got to know those guys, and that's how I got to know Tim. I was a little 12-year-old kid that was coming into the fly shop, like buying a fly or 2 and going out behind the fly shop and catching all those fish, and then I'd fish my way back home. I've been in there maybe 3 to 8 times, and that's when I mustered up the courage, and I asked Tim Hang for a job. And he was like, well, I think you're a little young, bud. Let's give it a few years. And I said, okay.
Just to work in the shop.
Yeah. I wanted to work in the shop. So I went to Roy Palm's fly shop too, Fryingpan Anglers. And I remember Roy Palm, he'd always in there smoking a cigarette, and he just, and I asked him for a job. He goes, "Nope, don't need no help." I was like, okay. So, and then they got to know me being the kid. I remember fishing behind the Rainbow. It was back when it was the Rainbow Grill. Be fishing behind the Rainbow Grill, and the fishing guides would be lined up on the railing, drinking beer, watching me fish through the river. It was my peanut gallery, hooting and hollering when I'd catch a fish out of a pocket, And then when I turned 14, that's when I went into the shop one day. I remember I went in to buy like a couple flies, and Tim Hang goes, "What are you doing this summer?" I said, "Well, I don't know, Tim." And he goes, "You want a job?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." He goes, "Okay, come in next Monday." And I was like, "Okay." I remember the first day I showed up in a Sage fly fishing t-shirt. And right away he goes, "Nope, not acceptable. You need a button-up shirt if you're going to work in here." And I said, "Done, Tim." So he instilled that in me. And to this day, every day I'm guiding, I wear a button-up shirt. I don't do the sun shirts. I do button-up shirts.
So I would say, looking back at your life with Tim and the Taylor Creek Fly Shop, did you know Bill Fitzsimmons before Tim had it?
So that was another part of my story that I forgot to mention. Will, his son, was one of my good friends. And Jerry, his wife, I would stay with Jerry and Bill for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. That was before we came to Basalt. I would stay with them like 2 to 3 weeks at a time. That was when I first got into fly fishing. And I remember he lived just upstream of Taylor Creek. And me and Will would just walk up and down the river and fish. And I taught Will how to spin fish, and I kind of got to fly fish at the same time. But yeah, I remember staying there and going to the fly shop with Will when he owned it. So that was another era. Oh my gosh. So yeah, it goes way back.
Do you ever think back of your life when you had this pure innocence and everything was new? Every fly you tied on was something that you'd never tied before.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm an older guy now, so I think a lot about those early years, and I really have. I get great joy of reminiscing about the early years of innocence. Right?
I agree with you totally. No, I tell all my new clients that when they have tons of questions and they're not feeling confident in their choices. And I'm like, listen, I did the same thing. That's experience. That's how you get good at this. It's just by going out and putting your time and effort. You can be told what to do so many times, but it's actually going out there and experiencing and having failing days like, wow, I did something wrong. I didn't catch any fish. And then you try something new, and then you have that aha moment, like, wow, that really worked. And it caught another fish, and it caught another fish, So, absolutely. I remember, being, my first time dry fly fishing, like, I think this is how you do it. I remember my first dry fly I tied on was a yellow humpy. And I remember tying it on like they tell me this is a great one. Let's see if it works. And I threw it up in a pocket, and a brown trout came up and ate it. I was like, wow, that is so cool.
I know. I was my first dry fly was a Renegade. I was like 9 years old, and Chuck Fothergill had taught myself and the Wright brothers how to tie flies. And I tied this fly and I threw it out there, and he bit it. It's like an aha moment. Right?
Yeah.
Who was the guy that taught you the most? Other than, pure experimentation.
So the benefit of me getting into that fly shop at such a young age is I had unlimited mentors because I attached to the fishing guides so much. So Tim Hang, learned a lot from Tim Hang. Kyle Holt, obviously. He was our head guide at Taylor Creek. I was not terrified of Kyle in the beginning. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't talk to him. And
were you now he's one intimidated by him?
I was intimidated by Kyle Holt. Absolutely. I was scared to death of Tim, because he was the hang, and Tim never yelled. He didn't scream. He would just give you the look. And if he gave you the look, you did something bad. Like, well, what did I do, Tim? Tim gave you the look. But growing up in that fly shop, I think at that point when I started there, I think we had maybe 13 guides, and I learned a little bit from every single one of them. Every one of them would take me fishing and show me different stuff between, Adam Sanau, Mike Chimura. Mike Chimura took me on one of my first floats on the Colorado. We floated down the river and we threw a prince nymph and a red copper john and caught the heck out of fish. And I remember him asking me like, can I take you floating this Tuesday? I'm like, well, I got to ask my mom. He goes, well, I'll come over and meet your mom. So he came over and met my mom. My mom's like, absolutely, you can take Brandon fishing. I remember we floated Dino to Silt that day. And I was just blown away. Like, this river is so cool. And then, the air has changed. So, you can't simply float down that river with a prince nymph and a red copper john and catch as many fish as you want. But I remember that. So Mike Chimura, a good buddy of mine, Mike Thomas. I learned to be a lot of floating from Mike Thomas. Jeremy Stott. I learned a lot of rowing from Jeremy Stott. He was the first one to let me row a drift boat down the river. I'm sure I hit some rocks and scared him a little bit, but he taught me how to row a drift boat. And then, a lot of the wake guides like Matt Ippoliti, he still guides for us. I remember when I was a little kid, he would get done guiding. And, this is before my driver's license. He would get done guiding and then come in when we were closed up and go, Brandon. I go, yeah. And he goes, I'm going to go fish for a couple hours. I'd be like, yeah, I do. He'd be like, go up below the dam. I'd be like, yep. Remember his old I think it was the early 90s. It was a diesel Suburban. We'd hop in that thing, had the fly rods going through the top. And we would drive up below the dam and catch fish. And then we had Ollie Fields and Sandy Moore, who were guides there forever.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I remember Sandy.
Yeah, yep. Sandy was light and bubbly. I never got a fish with Sandy. And then Ollie was kind of the curmudgeon, and I still guide some of Ollie's clients, and he was a strict teacher. You had to learn with Ollie, and they were incredible fishermen because he had zero tolerance for imperfection. You were learning it.
So let me ask you about your fishing. Are you that specific in how you fish? And how you fish, do you ever sway and do things very differently than you have in the past?
As far as like
let's just say you go drift fishing.
Yeah.
Is it always the same rig?
No. It depends on day to day,
So you vary quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
And what determines the difference?
Whether it's working or not. If you always start out with your first rig of the day and like this is what I think is going to work. And by God, if you hit it on the head on the nail on the first time and it works, it's great, and that's the thing about the roaring fork. They could eat that rig for a mile and then all of a sudden change. And that was my flaw when I was first being a fishing guide is I was too quick to jump and fire that rig. Sometimes it could be that 100, 300 yard section where they're just not into it. Then you turn the corner and all of a sudden they're into it again. It's
interesting. When we were talking to Kelly Gallup, he would change flies every 6 casts, right? When he was
I don't think it's that extreme, but he would change. Yeah, he would change flies like every 10 minutes.
Is that when he's wade fishing though?
When he's drifting,
when he's drift boat fishing.
Okay.
Yeah, he was always and then he would rack it up. And then he would go through maybe a number of flies, and then he would start all over again.
Well, he had a routine. He had a legitimate routine about color.
Yeah.
He would start white, black, yellow, blah, 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 and then he'd go back in that same order.
And that makes sense for streamer fishing. I mean, I kind of do the same thing when I'm streamer fishing. We don't streamer fish. I don't streamer fish much around here. There's a lot of guys that do. But on my day-to-day guiding thing, it's mostly nymphing or dry fly fishing or high-low. Those are my 3 main ones. And then I get the clients in the fall that want to streamer fish, and I go, okay, let's streamer fish. And I use the same code with streamer fish, and I go so long with a certain color, and nope, not working, go to the next color until I find that color.
Similar patterns, though?
Yes. Yep, same exact thing.
Well, Nicky said something interesting the other day. He floated down on the fork, and he was talking about how it is so particular as to where the flies are in the water column.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's technical. It's more technical. I mean, I'm new to the floating game on the fork, and so I've been out. I don't know, a dozen, 2 dozen times, and I was surprised how technical it is with adjusting your rigs and the fly patterns. And like you said, you can't go down and fish a prince nymph and a copper john and be real successful anymore. But at one point, I'm sure you were able to catch a lot of fish with that rig.
I hear the stories from the old guides, how, I get that all the time where, we used to be able to float this river with a beadhead prince and a beadhead pheasant tail and catch every fish in the river. They evolve. They've seen it so many times. They're constantly changing and they're getting smarter. It's amazing how a fish with a pea-sized brain can evolve that fast.
But it's funny because on the upper fork where I mostly fish, I mean, you can still catch a lot of fish with that rig.
Oh, and you could too on the lower fork, but I mean,
you have one shot at those holes when you're floating down, as opposed to wade fishing where you can really dissect that hole, start in, work your way out, and fish the far bank, and you can really, I don't know,
break it apart.
I feel like it's tougher when you're floating because you got one shot and then you're gone.
Yeah. And that's where you got to make your rig the most efficient that you can. And, that's a big thing, and there's different, and I'll tell you with floating, there's so many different floating styles. Every guide does it different. You get the guides that love to run it really long, 6-7 feet down to a little tiny split shot, and then have their flies behind it. And it's a little like flutter rig. They have their clients throw it out in the middle, and it slowly gets to the bottom, and they run over as many fish as they can. And then, my favorite way to do it is, and this is what Mike Thomas taught me, is to make your rig as short as you can, make it the most efficient that you can. And so you're not snagging bottom, but you're catching fish. You're more efficient getting down the river rather than losing flies. And so that's, I took to his style of fishing so much. And that's just it. All the guides taught me their style of fishing. And then I just put my own twist and turns on it, how I like to do it, So, but that's my style. I like that short, short, aggressive. Sometimes it's not much weight. Sometimes it's a lot of weight because I want to swing down only 2 feet below my bobber, then have my flies dancing behind it. I want to hit those fish in that column. But what that requires is teaching your clients, which pocket to throw it into. Like you have to be on them, you got to get it right behind that rock so it can swing right into place, So there's lots of different ways to do it, but yes, you have one shot to get it in that run. I would say in my early days of floating, I would because fly fishing is a total mind game. It can get in your mind so hard, and that could be your demise, when you start overthinking it. Like, well, I went through 3 pockets and I didn't get a bite, I got to switch these flies. Sometimes, that was the one thing I learned, is switching flies too often kind of hurt me. I had to have confidence in my flies. And after I went, maybe a half mile, and I'm like, okay, I only had 1 or 2 bites. That's not what they're on. I gotta play the game again and change around some stuff. And then you do that again, and no, that didn't work. And then you do it again, and okay, I caught a fish. All right. So one's lucky, 2's a fluke, 3 you got a pattern. So after I catch 3 fish on the same fly, okay, I pattern on something. They're eating betas, or they're targeting, worms or stoneflies or caddis, just whatever's working that day.
Do you like wade fishing or floating better?
I like them both. Yeah. I like them both. They have
there's a really big difference.
Oh, totally. And
I
I know with some guides only like to float and some guides only like to wade fish. I kind of find joy in doing both of it because I guide so much that if I just did the same thing day after day, it literally drives me crazy. So I like having the diversity of, like, one day I'm on the Fryingpan throwing dry flies or fishing a beta satch. The next day I'm down on the Colorado throwing great big bugs, hunting great big fish. And then the day after I'm on the Roaring Fork, fishing stoneflies, or, I like diversity. I really do.
It sounds more exciting than just floating every day.
Or
just wade fishing every day, for sure.
Yep.
And that's why you like to ice fish and troll for lake trout and rudeye, and you do it all.
I love spin fishing. I hate to say it. I've done fly fish for so long now, and now I'm going to that whole era in my life where I'm back to loving spin fishing. I love bass fishing. I love walleye fishing. Ice fishing, hard water fishing. That's one of my favorites. I look forward to that.
That's what you call ice fishing, hard water fishing?
Yeah, that's one of the jokes. You want to go hard water fishing tomorrow? Sure.
I want to talk about all that, but first I want to go up to the top of the frying pan. And the micey shrimp that are coming out of the bottom of the dam, and all those big fish that used to hang out in the Bend pool, all the flats up there. I mean, those years were epic. Is it still pretty good up there? I mean, I just don't go up there anymore.
You know, in my era of fly fishing the Fryingpan River, I think I caught kind of the tail end of it. I started going up there in like the 2000s when I started going up there. That's when Matt would take me up there, and I got to see the toilet bowl and the great big fish in there. You know, we used to see double-digit fish, and we still see big fish up there. I just don't see them as often as I once, you know. I hear stories from the old guides like, you know, a 7-8 pound fish used to be just like an average fish up there. You know, they were looking for fish that were over 10 pounds. You know, now if we catch a 7-8 pound fish, we're like, oh, this is a giant, you know?
Yeah.
And I got to see that era. I got to see that era when there were giant fish in that river. But don't quite see them like I used to. I don't see the shrimp like I used to either.
Yeah, is it not that prolific anymore? The shrimp hatches out of the dam?
No, I don't see them flowing through there like I used to, you know. This is the first year. So in the past 4 years, let's put it that, the last 3 years, generally when the springtime, when they've raised the flows, it creates more suction in the reservoir. It pulls more shrimp out. And that's when you see great shrimp fishing. This is the first year, high water in June that I've actually put on a shrimp and they've eaten it. Like they recognized what it was. The past 3 years, it was, you know, because I remember, you know, before that, every time the river spiked, you went right to the flats. There are the fish right there, put on a shrimp, and you could see them run over and eat that shrimp. They knew what it was and they were hunting. It felt like the past 3 years, they didn't know what they were. You would see, you know, an 18-inch rainbow sitting out in a riffle out there, and you're like, oh, he's going to eat a shrimp. Put a shrimp over him, wouldn't even react to it. You had to take the shrimp off and start fishing mayfly stuff in order to get those fish to come over and react.
And you're
to
talking about on the flats, not the toilet bowl.
The flats, yeah. I don't fish. You know, when I was a kid, I used to fish the toilet bowl a lot, but it's rare for me to fish the toilet bowl. I go up there in the dead of winter, and that's when I'll actually do trips. I don't go fish.
Yeah, I've seen you up there once or twice in the dead of winter. That's actually when I fish it. You know, a handful of times every winter. When it's really shitty and it's snowing hard, that's the best time to go up there.
And the blue-winged olives are hatching.
No, I'm talking about the toilet bowl because no one's going to be there, and you can have that spot to yourself. But I killed a fish. I took one home to smoke one about 2 years ago up there.
Yeah,
and there was 10,000 micey shrimp in that stomach.
Is that catch and release up there?
No. You can keep. I think they changed the rules. It was 2 brown trout, 14 inches and under.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on this, but I think the state changed it to 4 brown trout of any size. It could be 14 inches and under.
I did hear that because there's so many brown trout
it's overpopulated
in the frying pan.
Yep. There's a lot, and it's a double-edged sword. I mean, even if people are keeping fish in that river, the brown trout are going to keep reproducing, and they're so efficient at it. I mean, if you look at the flats in the wintertime, it's just one giant spawn bed.
Right.
When you walk around, even in the summertime, you see all the little brown trout fry. They're just little tiny guys, you know, inch long. They're everywhere out there. Next time you walk through there, just consciously look down and see how many brown trout fry are swimming in that river. It's unbelievable.
Well, I was watching a video recently with Kyle Holt on that TV show Fly Fishing America, what you were talking about, and he took the host to the flats, like just above the Bend pool.
Yep.
And they were catching giant fish. I mean, giant fish, fishing micey shrimp. And they caught like a 5-pound brook trout. I'd never seen a brook trout in that river.
Mm-hmm. So we used to see giant ones. We called him. There used to be one that swam around the flats. We called him Brookzilla. He was probably 4 or 5 pound.
How did
brook
they get
trout.
there?
They must have come out of Rocky Fork. I don't know. I don't see them up there anymore. But I remember on the backside of the toilet bowl seeing brook trout out there.
Interesting. So what happened? What's your theory on what happened to all those big rainbows?
Mishandled.
Really?
Not as many shrimp coming through. Oh yeah, those fish. They get. They are resilient up there for the abuse they take. It's pretty unbelievable how resilient those fish are. But if you think of a big old rainbow trout, if it gets mishandled, gets dropped on the rocks or held out of the water too long, they don't survive. You know, as they get older, they get more fragile. The way I understand it. So I think part of it's mishandling. I think part of it's, we don't have the shrimp that we used to. And part of it too is we have the numbers of fish in there. Yep. I always remember a lot of fish as a kid, but I remember them being bigger. You know?
I haven't fished up there in a long time, but I remember I used to love to go to the flats, and you could almost like bone fishing. You'd see them, over there on their spots, and then you stop. You can't fish the reds. That's ethically so wrong. You just can't fish over those spawning beds. Yeah. But you just walk up through there and you just look and count them and just watch them. I just love watching them, right? Yeah. And the Bend Pool always had those giant fish. But there's so many dry fly fishermen that just target that river just because of all the great hatches up there.
Oh, it's an unbelievable dry fly fishery. Still to this day, it's an unbelievable dry fly fishery. And they you can see it later in the season. You can usually see it by like the beginning of October where the fish are like burned on eating on the surface. You'll have a great drake hatch, and there'll be drakes coming down the river, and there'll be so few fish rising because they've been caught on them. They're just like, I'm just going to stay down here and eat nymphs where I'm safe.
Do you ever lean away from the frying pan because of that? Like I noticed a lot of the fish up there, where, and a lot of rivers too, where it's overpopulated and all the fish are getting caught. They just kind of flop around and come over to you, like, take this thing out of my face. Do you ever like want to just go to the lower fork or the Colorado to find these healthy fish that have never been caught before?
Absolutely.
And you just stay away from the fork? Or from the frying pan?
Yeah, I would say during the seasons, because I do really enjoy dry fly fishing. So when dry fly season is good on the frying pan, I really like going up there and finding drakes and finding the P&B hatch. Even though it's busy, come to terms with that, and the key to that is just communication, asking the other fishermen in a run, like, I hate to do this, but can I go fish on the other side of the river from you? 95% of the time, everybody's like, go ahead, thank you, and then you go give them a few flies, grease the wheel, and they always appreciate that. Yeah, I want to stay friendly with other fishermen out there. I don't want to be hated, So, but when the season is in full swing, I absolutely love fishing dry flies. But my clients know my rules, and I always tell them this, if we drive up there and it's packed, and then we're not going, I don't want to battle fish.
Do you ever just fish just above town?
Town of Basalt?
Basalt, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When I go up there, I try to find, the lower water where there's nobody, because they all have a tendency to gravitate to the top, the upper part.
Yeah.
What's really fun, and I don't know if you've ever done it, a lot of those private pieces of property have stocked these great big rainbows, right? Yeah. And they get flushed out with a high water.
Working fish.
We used to walk around and just look for these big fish that are holding in these little riffles and catch these giants that may be a half a mile down from this ranch or this piece of property. Have you done that quite a bit?
Oh yeah.
It's amazing how if you don't, if you're not fishing and you just dedicate yourself to walking upriver maybe a mile just to see if you can see a big fish,
find them.
You'll find one.
Yeah, you will.
If you go hunting, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what is your fishing like if you fish alone by yourself? What do you gravitate to?
Fly fishing anymore for me, I don't really do too much. I do it with my 7-year-old because he's got the
bug.
He's got it bad. He is darn cute at 7, running around his little waders.
You fish through him.
I fish through him. So that's my fly fishing more. I take him up on the frying pan or take him floating. And, on the frying pan, I'll just sit and just teach him how to do it. He figured out dry fly fishing this spring and he loved it. At first he'd see the fish eat the fly and he would do that jump like, oh, it ate it. And I'm like, well, you got to set the hook, buddy. And so now he's hooked. He
that's
loves
great.
It. Yeah.
That's great. I want to talk a little bit about Euro nymphing and, Howard Croston is the main rod designer for Hardy that I've worked with in the past 15 years or so. And he was the world champion freshwater fisherman and captain of Team England. Mm-hmm. So all those guys, it's a numbers game, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of their flies are like jig flies with heavy heads and tungsten. Does tungsten play a big role in your fly box?
Yeah. Yeah. Especially on the Colorado River. I like really heavy flies out on that river. Because I like flies where I stagger them, they're covering different water zones.
How many flies?
You know, 2, if I know what the fish are biting on. 3, if I'm guessing. If I'm in that whirlwind of like, I don't know what the fish are biting on, I'll add that 3rd one just to kind of figure out the puzzle faster. But I typically like to fish 2 flies. Mm-hmm. So, but I'll stagger them apart from one another so I cover different depths, especially on the Colorado. You know, I like that short, heavy rig, and I like it to swing right into place. So I actually really like the Euro flies for that river because they get down in there really fast. Mm-hmm. So, have
you dabbled with Euro technique or monofilament fishing at all?
A little bit. I did do the Team USA stuff, and I always
you did?
Oh yeah, I always qualified for the regionals.
Did you compete in any of those events?
I did the regionals, not the nationals. I did the pre one because they used to have it in the Roaring Fork Valley. So I taught myself how the Euro nymph, and I actually had a lot of fun doing it. But the problem is in the summertime, being a fishing guide, you got to be here guiding. You can't go off and do that.
So if you're fun fishing on yourself, if by chance you are, would you Euro fish, or would you normally use your fly line in a normal
use
leader?
A bobber or a dry fly? Go back to where I grew up and what I do every day. I mean, Euro nymphing is very fun and is very, very effective. I've seen guys do really, really well. Like clean outer run, like, holy cow, that works really, really well.
Joe Humphreys taught me how to monofish. Like, I would say this has to be at least 40 years ago. I was fishing on the Madison, and I bumped into Steve Rajeff and Joe Humphreys. You know who Joe Humphreys is. You got to know him. The old guy who used to teach fly fishing at... where do you teach? I can't think of the college.
It sounds familiar.
Very famous guy. Yeah. Very famous. But he was the guy who started just putting monofilament on his fly reel and just throwing, weighted leaders and flies and just monofishing with a high stick, tight line. Mm-hmm. He taught me how to do that a long time ago. So when I used to go fishing, I'd have one rod with it was nothing but mono, and the other rod was a dry fly rod. So you see one little run, you could monofish, or if you see a fish rising, you go over here and do that, which I love to do. But yeah, the mono technique and the Euro technique is so deadly, right?
It is.
I just like watching that bobber go down.
There's a lot to that.
I love watching that bobber move, man.
I mean, I've had people Euro nymph out of my boat. And I had a guy one time, man, he was catching some big fish out in the middle of the river where I would have never, ever thought of throwing a bobber rig. But he could work those nymphs down there and catch the fish we never touch. But I remember he had I think it was his brother-in-law on the boat, and he was throwing a bobber rig. And he got really good with it. And he did eventually look at me and go, "Can I try that bobber thing?" And I was like, "Sure."
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he did. He goes, "Wow, this is kind of fun, throwing it out there." And I was like, "Yeah." Lots of different ways and that's the beauty of our sport. There's so many different ways to catch fish. Just like I was saying with floating, there's so many guides do different things. And that's honestly great for our river, because if everybody went down the river and did the same exact program, the fish would adjust so fast. Mm-hmm. It's good that everybody has their different way of doing it, and it all works.
So how has the Roaring Fork changed over the years of you guiding?
I don't feel like it has.
At all.
Busier. Definitely more fishermen out on the river, more rafting. And
so you haven't changed your fly selection or your rig at all from when you started to now?
So I was taught to do it, and if it works, and philosophy is, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. So until it doesn't work for me, that's where I evolve. I've seen flies over the years that it works so great for a season. Then you go into the next season and you try it, doesn't work. Got to go back to the drawing board. Generally that short, aggressive style of fishing is my favorite way to do it.
So how often are you learning new stuff, new techniques, new spots, or is it all repetitive?
I mean, beauty of fly fishing is you never stop learning. You always have those days where you have a frustrating day and you try something a little different and it works, and then you add it to your arsenal. That I did this and it worked.
What's your weakest link as a guide? Patience?
No, I feel like I'm pretty patient.
Yeah. What's your weakest link, Nikki?
I have a lot of weak links, Andy.
I mean,
I don't think a lot of people understand what's going on under the water column
no,
for the most part.
no.
Because we're not, I mean, on the ocean, you can see stuff because it's shallow. You see the fish, you see where they swim, you see how they react, whether it be bonefishing, permit, or tarpon, right? But in a river, and one of the sad things or difficult things I personally feel about trout fishing is these fish live right here.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody fishes right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm personally starting to challenge myself a little bit, like, how do I want to fish today? I know I can catch a fish. And these fish have really been caught a lot. And, I don't want to bother their house. So how can I have a relationship with these fish without bothering them too much? Where with Jay Scott 2 years ago, we were floating. I said, Jay, I'm not going to catch a fish today. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to throw a big stimulator and we're just going to see how many bites we get. I had the best day ever. And because now, and we spoke about this in the past, that, where are there ethics in fishing other than being kind to the resource? Fish handling, trash and all that obvious stuff over here. But let's just say I'm going to go fish with a bamboo rod and only dry fly today. Mm-hmm. And if I catch one fish, I'm fine. And I just see so many people fishing the same holes. I'm starting to feel sorry for the fish. So now, especially drift fishing, if I hook a fish, he might not get off my fly for another 200 yards. I'm going, that fish is going, man, where's my house? Where's my family? Where is everybody? So my mind has kind of switched a little bit. And I was just wondering, do you, as a professional guide, and with your son, now he can catch all the fish he wants. Mm-hmm. And I think I read a quote from you saying that when you were younger, you were mad because you wanted to catch every fish in the river.
I did.
Right?
Yep.
So how has that changed over the years?
I'm just not mad at him anymore.
But are you still challenging to catch the big number game?
No, I'm not. I want to make my people happy. And I guess I don't fly fish anymore because I fish through my clients every day. So I feel like when they have a successful day and they catch a bunch of fish, I had a successful day and caught a bunch of fish. No, I'm getting, when I first started guiding, I did want to have my clients catch as many fish as they can. And I still do to this day, but I guess I don't, if I have a rougher day, I've come to terms with that's just fishing. And
it's
it
okay.
is what it is. It's called guide, not God.
Right.
No matter how good you can be at it, you're still going to have days where they throw you a curveball and you can't catch as many as you want.
And it's okay.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because, they talk about the journey. It's not about the fish, it's about the journey.
Yep.
Well, you got to have a great fish to lead you down that journey, lead you down that road.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So if it wasn't for the fish itself, you would never go, spend a big part of your life chasing these things.
Yep.
But the journey being told here as you've evolved, now you like to hard water fish, ice fish, fit in your troll root eye, and catch these big mackinaw, out of the lake. So I guess, you have gravitated back to maybe your roots with spin fishing, right?
I have, totally. Yep. Because I put so much passion into fly fishing, and I still love fly fishing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I don't love fly fishing in any way, shape, or form. I guess I just don't have the drive or desire to go and fly fish as much as I can on my days off, besides my son, because he loves it. He loves all versions of it. He loves ice fishing. He loves going out in the boat and going on root eye or some of our other reservoirs and chasing stuff, and then fly fishing. It's so funny. He'll be in a different mood every day. Like, Dad, are we gonna go fish this Saturday? I'm like, yeah. What do you want to go do? He'll think about it for a second. And go, I want to go fly fishing. I'm like, okay, let's go fly fishing, buddy. Or no, I want to go ice fishing. That's what he was saying earlier today. He's like, I can't wait for ice fishing season, Dad. And I think he likes that because he likes the snowmobiles and he likes the snacks. You bring lots of snacks out there because ice fishing, if they're not in there and they're not feeding, it is boring. You're just standing there jigging a lure through an 8-inch hole. Like, when are they going to bite? And, you're looking on your sonar, seeing if the fish are coming in. But when they come in and they want to feed, everything blows up and it's so exciting.
Right. Because you catch big fish.
Big. Oh,
I mean, how big?
I was going to say, is that the excitement? Is that the size of the fish that you're catching?
Yeah. And
you're not going to catch a big fish in the river,
Just
or
how-
a giant like you're catching out of Rudai.
You can.
no, not
the
to
Colorado,
the
you
extent.
can. Yeah, the Colorado, you
Well,
might.
I mean, what's a big fish? A 10-pound fish is a big fish. They live in the Colorado.
How often do you catch that fish?
I've never caught them, but I know they do.
How often do you catch a 10-pounder?
Not terribly often on the Colorado.
Once
Only
every 2 years.
Not even that.
Really?
There you
we
go.
see them like 6 to 8 pounds, and
Yeah.
that's a
But
big
how
fish.
often do you catch a 10-pound lake trout out of Rudai?
Oh, those are the babies.
That's what I'm saying. So you have
So
a
it's the
chance to go
size,
to
yeah.
really get excited as a fisherman.
So as
to go
far as
catch
I
a-
know about lake trout is they can live to be 100 years old. So some of those fish, so the reservoir was built in 1968, and I think they put those lake trout in the early to mid 70s. Some of those big fish we catch are some of the original fish they put in there.
Wow.
So they're smart. They've seen it all. And I'm so intrigued by them because I've come to terms and I'm okay with going fishing, hard fishing for a day and getting completely skunked. I've come to terms with that with lake trout fishing, and that's my love and my passion. And that was the same, like I've gone up to Oregon and Washington and steelhead fished. And, those stories of those guides, they go 2-3 weeks without touching a fish. And I'm just
And they fish all day?
and they fish all day. And I'm just like, how could you do this?
Yeah,
and
right.
now that I fish for lake trout, I'm like, I get it. That is a passion, And they're just so incredibly smart. And then you have that day where you catch 1 or 2 giants and you're like, my day's made. I'm done. If I catch 2 to 3 giant lake trout, I'm done for the day. I'll drink beer and I'll be the peanut gallery rooting everybody else on, Somebody doesn't have a sonar. I'm like, take my sonar, you go catch one. Take my rod,
So what's it look like on your sonar?
So it's a screen. You drop your lure down, you can see the line and you can see your lure and you can see it, sitting dead still. And then when you're jigging it, it goes up and down. And all of a sudden a mark will come in. And based on how big the fish is how much return you get on your mark, on your fish finder. So, a little fish will be the same. So if you're fishing an 8 to 10 inch bait, if the mark's the same size as your bait, that's a little fish coming in looking at it. And as the mark gets bigger, that's the bigger fish coming in looking at it. And then once they come in, that's the funnest thing is it's a cat and mouse game. You've got to make them believe that is a real fish trying to escape from them. And it's all vertical.
So you're teasing the fish through your screen.
Yep. And you read it and you see them chasing it through the water column. And you have to learn how to read how that fish is reacting to your bait.
It's a video game.
It is a video game.
Yeah.
But it is hard.
What kind of bait are you using?
Just big jigs,
How often do big fish come up to your lure and you can't get them to bite?
Sometimes you don't see one all day. You go to 10, 15 different spots. You ride the snowmobiles to all the famous spots and you're drilling holes and you're hunting for them. And some days you don't see one. You see some little ones. And then you get days where you'll have 20, 30 giants. It could be the same fish coming back 10 times or it's different fish. You don't know that. You just know that there's a giant
What's
fish.
your biggest fish out of Rudai?
I got one a little over 30 pounds out of
30
there.
pounds
Yeah.
out of the ice? Hard
Yeah.
water?
Yep.
Did you have to cut a bigger hole?
Nope. Came through an 8-inch hole. Yep.
What's it like when you see his head come up?
You freak out. they're the coolest fish. They really are.
So they get to 100 years old?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What's like a big rainbow? What's a 10-pound rainbow? Do you have any idea how old?
I think rainbows live to be about 12, and I think brown trout can live to be about 16.
Interesting.
Don't quote me on that, but that's what I've been told. So rainbows grow a lot faster than brown trout. That's why a lot of state fish hatcheries, you only see rainbow trout in the fish hatcheries. They don't do a lot of brown trout, and I think it's a yielding thing. I think in 2 years they can grow a rainbow trout to be 12, 14 inches and turn and burn them right out of the fish hatchery.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're trolling on Rudai in the summertime, do you do a lot of that?
I do it to find the fish, yep.
Okay. So you do it to find the fish.
And I don't really fish so much in the summertime because they're
He's
so
guiding
deep.
it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not guiding out on route. I have to get a
But you're
captain.
guiding on the rivers.
Yeah,
That's
you're
why you
busy
have no
guiding.
time
Yeah,
to go
I'm
up
so
there.
busy guiding out
Okay.
on the Fryingpan
Yeah.
and the Roaring Fork River.
Because I was going to ask, do you use planers doing that, or how do you get the trolling lures down?
So downriggers is what you're talking about. No, I'm not ever out on the lake when the fish are that deep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what now in the fall, are you in the mouth of the river looking for spawners coming up to the mouth?
No, I'll take the kids out and take them salmon fishing in the reservoir. And then we'll go up towards the inlet and we'll kind of stage the salmon as they're moving up. They are delicious.
The kokanee.
Kokanee.
Yeah.
They are delicious.
Wow.
And it's a sockeye, landlocked sockeye.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. But you do a lot of fishing from shore, though, out of Rudai, too, right? Or not?
When the boat ramp closes, I do. I'll walk shore and fish up there.
It's pretty productive?
Yeah. Far from it.
You're lying.
No, I'm dead serious.
He's been lying to us for, let me see, 50 minutes about.
No, that's lake trout fishing. I mean, everybody says they want to do it until they do it. Then they go, I don't know. I mean, and I was the same way as a kid. You know, a good buddy of mine was the one that got me back into it. It's like, no, there are giants in this lake and you can't catch them. I was like, whatever. As a kid, I mean, I remember as a kid, you know, these two guys showed up with an aluminum boat. I was working with, I think it was Kirk Webb, and they said, oh, do you guys have any Rapalas? And we were like, no, we don't sell lures at the fly shop. And we were like, why? And they're like, oh, we caught these big fish. Come out and look at them. I remember going and looking in the bottom of their aluminum boat. They had like a 12-pound lake trout. I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, where'd you get this? And they're like, oh, up in the lake. And I was like, oh. And I was like, it's like, I'm going to go up and do it.
I want a Rapala.
Yeah. Well, no, I fly fish. I walked the shore for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks. I caught one like 20 inches. That was it. I was like, and I gave up on it. I was like, it's like, oh, I can't do this, you know? And then I got back into it. And they're just an incredibly smart, hard fish. And I still haven't even quite figured them out. That's, you know, I've only done it for maybe, you know, ice fishing, I've done it for maybe 6-7 years now. And so now I'm head over heels. They're my favorite fish. You know, I want to go to Flaming Gorge Reservoir. I've done Blue Mesa. Like I want to travel to some of these other famous fisheries. And
Do you like that more than fly fishing the rivers?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because of the size?
Just the thought process and how hard they are to figure out.
So you must love permit fishing.
I did like permit fishing. Yeah. Yeah. They were incredibly smart too.
Right.
You know.
So are you competing in tournaments when you ice fish?
No. Oh no, I do. It's Nate Zielinski's ice out tournament. I did that one. I went to Blue Mesa for one. He puts out I mean, there's like 800 to 1,000 people at the Blue Mesa one. Yep. They drill a hole like I think it's 15 feet. It is a huge event. He travels the whole Western United States to do these ice fishing tournaments. It's really cool. So he just started doing one at Rifle, and I went and I competed in the one in Rifle this last winter.
How'd you do?
I got 26
out of.
I think there were 300 or 400 people out there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The grand prizes, I think it's $7,500 cash. Little kid won it with a pike. It was awesome. Everybody was thrilled for him. But yeah, no, I got 26 with it was a 15-inch perch.
So what does that look like? Everybody's on the bank and they blow an air horn and everyone runs out there and drills holes?
It's based off of stages. So it's based off of how you sign up. So the earlier sign-ups get Group A. So Group A has to be there at 4:30 in the morning. I'm just using that time as an example. But you have to be in your check-in time at that point. And you walk out and you choose a hole.
So the holes are already pre-drilled.
His crew goes out and pre-drills 300 or 400 holes.
Wow.
In the ice. They Swiss cheese it like every 15 feet apart. And so the first Group A, Group B, Group C, Group D, Group E, just depends on how many people they get to sign up for this. And then you walk out there and you go, okay, I'm going to fish this hole right here. And then that's how it's based off of it. And they give you a bucket, and when you catch a fish, you put the fish in the bucket and you run it over, and they've got horse troughs set up. And they've got these shopping baskets, and you put your fish in your shopping baskets, and it's like Ring Around the Rosie. You like travel with your other people are in front of you, and then you put them in the next one, you go, and they bring it over to the scale. And they weigh it real fast, and if you place, then they put you on the leaderboard, and then it's all based at the end of who
Are
wins
these
it.
fish released then?
Yep. They got a whole. Well, you can keep them per Colorado if you want to per Colorado regulations. But no, right behind the weighing station, they have a hole where they just go and they dump them in afterwards, so all the fish get released right there in the lake.
So if your hole is unproductive, can you switch holes?
Yes, if there's another hole open, you can move, but you can only fish the one hole, and it's I think it's like 3 or 4 hours of fishing. And then they toot a horn and everybody just starts. I mean, you can hear all the sonars firing up and all the rigs dropping down. You just see people running across a crowd that caught a fish right away. It is cool. A lot of fun.
It sounds like a circus.
You want to sign up next winter?
No. Nope. It's too cold. But I would think that you would be also, too, targeting some carp, because there's a lot of great carp fishing in Colorado, right?
There is. I went through an era of wanting to carp fish.
That's all sight fishing, right?
Yeah. Just like bone fishing. You see them up in the sloughs or cruising, mud flats or, yeah. It's just a Rocky Mountain bonefish is all it is.
But did you dive headfirst into that?
I got into it a little bit, but anymore now.
No?
I don't go carp fishing.
Why is that not as appealing as a big fish out of Rudai? I mean,
because it's a carp?
No. I love them.
They fight well.
No, they
right?
fight incredibly well. And they're very smart, and I love, I love how they eat. I don't know. I just I had an era where I got into it, and I don't know. I just kind of lost my passion for wanting to go do it. And I still, if I'm floating the Colorado and I've got, a client that can do it, I'll say, oh, I've got a carp rod here. Let's pull up in the slough and see if we can get you on a carp. I still catch them from time to time. But do I personally like take a day off to be like I'm going to go carp fishing? No.
I always thought it'd be fun to bring one of our skiffs out here, and use them to, go target carp.
Yeah.
Could you do that? Could you pull a skiff around in one of those carp sloughs?
In some of the lakes?
Yes. If you went up to some of the lakes like in northwestern Colorado.
Like Tarryall Lake over Independence Pass.
Yeah.
That I used to catch a lot of big pike over there. But we used to see herds of big carp.
Oh yeah. You totally take a skiff and I think there's some guys out in Denver that do it. They have a skiff and they go and they pull around. But no, it's not, I like stuff out of lakes, but like I said, I'm kind of on my days off, I'm kind of starting to veer more towards the spin fishing side of things, I really like that. I love PAL. Love taking, we make an annual trip out to May every spring with the kids to go to PAL. And that's, we head out there and we go catch walleye and we fillet them and vacuum seal them. And then we come back and have a giant fish fry and they are delicious. I love walleye.
I would think that you would be a candidate, obviously you have 3 kids, but there are a lot of friends of ours that I know in Montana and Colorado too have gravitated to, the saltwater world, where they guide down there in the winter and they guide out here in the summer. Have you ever thought about doing that yourself?
I don't know if I'll ever be a saltwater captain. I don't know if I'll ever pursue that part of it. I could see, at some point, me and my wife have talked about, when the kids are growing up, like going to Florida in the wintertime and then coming back to Colorado in the summertime. But I don't know. I don't know how those guides do it down there, I mean, the guide I fished with in Hawaii, I asked him, I said, what do you do if you have someone that's never fly fished before? He goes, I don't take them.
You can't.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, I just don't take them.
They can't get the fly out of the boat.
Yep. So I was like, okay, I get that.
But you like it yourself because you're going to Louisiana here, I think, soon, right?
I'm going to this November. Yeah, I'm super excited. I haven't been saltwater fishing in quite some time. So I'm very, very excited. A great client of mine invited me to come down. And I was like I can't say no to that, Right. I always feel bad because I'm leaving my wife behind with the 3 kids, but thankfully she's super supportive and, enjoys that. And then, she knows at some point that it's going to be me and her going on these saltwater trips,
Is she a fisherman also?
Oh, she loves it.
Oh, that's great.
Oh yeah. My wife, Jess, she loves it and she's good at it. Oh yeah. She's really good at it. She's really, really modest about being good at it, but she's good at it.
It's deadly. That's awesome.
Take her out in the drift boat and she'll put 6, 7, 8 fish. I mean, I've taught her forever. We've known each other since preschool, so we go way back.
No way.
Yeah. We've known each other
Love
forever.
at first sight.
I wish it was as easy as that, but no, it wasn't until she was done with college, that we started dating and got married, and now we have 3 kids.
I want to bring it back to fly fishing and fly tying. Is fly tying a passion of yours, or is it just part of work?
No, I really do enjoy tying flies. I love getting creative. I love tying streamers.
You got a Chernobyl over here with a dick. Does that fly work better than one without the penis?
I don't know. It's got a weed guard on it. It might be hard to hook up. No, that was just a drunken night when I'm tying hoppers for the Colorado. Like, I'm going to put a dick on this one. And I did, and it was a huge hit. It's a huge laugh for everybody to be like, there's a dick on this hopper. And by the way, that's your hopper now, Andy. You got to take that one with you.
I'm going to use it.
If you catch a fish on it, you at least got to take a picture and put it online.
Oh my God.
I love fly tying. I really do. So, but that's, I designed my own personal flies that work really well with me. And, I'm a signature fly tyer for Umpqua now, Umpqua Feather Merchants. And it did get to the point where it felt like work for me to have to come home and sit down and tie like 2 dozen flies. Some guys really like it. For me, it was just irritating to come home. And I know that the flies were working so well, but I had to sit down and tie them. So that's why I decided to sell off give off some of my creations,
Is it hard to create something new?
I wouldn't say
that's effective.
Yeah, because you kind of take
so many
what you almost with fly tying now. It's like you take a little bit of this that you like with this one, you take a little bit of that you like with this one, and you kind of combine them and put your own twist on them.
Yeah, it's like these flies here, right?
Those aren't mine. Those are a manufactured fly. Those are called the Zertle.
Well, didn't Lefty Cray something like it's easy to imitate, it's hard to originate.
Yeah. I was always surprised that you don't see very much marabou in the freshwater world, because marabou breathe so well, maybe for like streamer patterns.
I use a lot of marabou in my streamer flies.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. A lot of, I guess it just depends on what you're trying to tie and what you're trying to imitate. But you can use naturals, you can use synthetics. But I love marabou. I tie a lot of marabou in my big streamers.
What about the brown hackle peacock?
That was
wasn't that a great fly forever?
I remember in my first fly tying kit, that was one of the very first flies I had to learn how to tie, was the brown hackle peacock.
Yes.
And I caught a lot of fish on that.
With the gold ribbing, you cross rib the gold rib.
And then you do the red butt version where you do the little red yarn. I'm trying to remember what that was called, but it had a little red butt on there with peacock curl and brown hackle in the front of it. That was always a killer for me too.
Yeah, I mean, it works. It looks just like a caddis. What do you call that? That the caddis worms shuck.
Or no,
the case,
casing.
the caddis case.
Caddis casing,
right?
Yep.
Is that what that represents?
It could,
even a stonefly though represents a stonefly too.
No, I got one right here. Yeah, no, I mean, it's just like the Prince nymph. Basically with that fly, it imitates all.
A lot of things.
Could look like a mayfly, could look like a stonefly, could look like a caddis. I mean, those are some of the greatest flies. Are flies that imitate a little bit of everything, not so specific to one thing, just like a pheasant tail.
Makes sense.
Pheasant tail, you change the sizes of it, you can change a whole variety of bugs in the river.
Mm-hmm. I think that's the only fly that Yvon Chouinard fishes. I think he was just on the cover of Tail magazine with his brown hackle peacock, because I was fishing with him in the Bahamas and he was catching these bonefish with a brown hackle peacock.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Dude,
well, no, he just came out with a new book with Craig Matthews all about pheasant tails. I don't know if you saw that. It's called like Pheasant Tail Simplicity, and it's a whole book about like pheasant tail patterns, because like he loves just the traditional patterns. And I remember talking to Tom McGuane. He won't dry fly fish.
No.
He like has to fish one fly in nymph or Euro nymph or nymph, one fly. He wants to like figure out where the fish are and feel the thump. He doesn't care about dry fly fishing, which I find very interesting.
To each their own.
It's the tug.
I mean, I've got clients that love to fish dry flies, and if they can fish dry flies, they only want to fish dry flies. And I'm perfectly fine with that. When people say stuff like that, they've already made it up in their mind how they want their day to go. And I fully support it,
Mm-hmm.
We'll give it so long. If it's not working, I'm like, hey, if you want to catch a few fish, let's, do do this. And it's either yay or nay, you know. Yes, I do want to do that, or no, I don't want to do that. But
Well, do you remember some of these older guys that used to fish the pan and they only fished, with dry flies and bamboo rods?
they still do.
Who's up there now? Are there quite a few people from Denver that are still driving up?
No, I only see, honestly, I'm up there quite a bit through August. I would say, once July's over, I kind of switch gears and I kind of go to wade fishing quite a bit more through the month of August. And then once September comes, I kind of start switching to doing floats and wades. And then once October comes, I'll still wade fish, but I tend to like to be in my boat a little bit more this time of year. So when I'm up there, I do see people still fishing bamboo fly rods. I think that's really cool.
It is cool.
I don't own a bamboo fly rod.
It's like Steve Herder, a friend of ours that we had on the podcast. He only throws his fly. He calls it the what does he call it?
The chocolate.
Chocolate. It's like a size 26. A little midge. That's the only way he fishes. He catches big fish over in the Yampa, in Steamboat. Comes over. He used to fish with Chuck Fothergill up, under the dam. Dry fly only.
Yep.
And he calls it, dragging glitter down the ditch. If you're talking about
If you're nymphing. Yeah.
Yeah. And Dan Laren out of Montana, he talks about the Sri Lanka hopper, all these.
Yeah, the brown trout look up, they go, oh, there's another Sri Lankan tide hopper. I'm not going to eat that. Last time I ate that, I got drugged downriver 50 yards. But then I lost my train of thought. But Chuck Fothergill used to fish up there a lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what was his name?
AK Best.
AK Best.
And John Gierak.
Yeah.
They were all bamboo dry fly guys.
Yeah, I think Gierak still comes and fishes the frying pan.
Well, he passed.
Or not. Oh, yeah, that's right. He
And
did.
AK Best passed.
Yeah, that's right.
Those guys would have been a great, guys to have on the podcast talking about, their fishing, because Gierak wrote all these great books.
Yeah, he made the frying pan famous with staying with Roy Palm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I used to stop. I remember I used to go up and fish, and I would stop at Roy's house on the way down and talk to Roy. He became a good friend of mine.
The best, right?
Yeah, he was awesome. Brandon, there's the fridge there with the beer in it. Get you one.
Get me one too.
Yeah, he'd light up his 100 Pall Mall, sit there and smoke it.
He had that big bend pole back there in the corner. He was just the best.
I'd always ask him, Roy, can I go fish out there for a little bit? Nope, that's where the fish grow up, Brandon.
Leave those alone.
He wouldn't let me fish his property. No. But yeah, he was a great guy.
Have you ever fished the pan at night? Not the toilet bowl?
A few times.
Can you throw a mouse?
Sure.
Yeah.
Trout are opportunistic feeders. They'll come up and eat it. The funnest is when they're cranking the flows, and we used to see the little baby kokanee coming out when the water was high, and they would sit there and they would like quiver on the surface, and the fish would blow up and eat them. So I'd go up there late in the evening and throw like a gurgler. I'd make look like a little salmon. I'd catch big, not giants. I wouldn't catch any giants, but I'd catch some 18, 20 inch browns on it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Throw it out there, and they made a fly a long time ago called, I don't know if they still do or not, but it was called the pole dancer. And it was a walk the dog style fly. It had like a hard head on it with a body. Yeah, they liked that one a lot too, because it would sit there and bloop, 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 bloop. They would come up and blow up on it.
So when you're nymph fishing the pan, do you like to use yarn or an indicator?
Both.
You use both.
Yeah, I even use pulses still. Haven't heard of those in a long time, huh?
Balsa?
Pulses.
What is that?
It's this little stick-on indicators.
Oh, yeah.
The old timers used to put like 2 to 5 of them on there.
Who's the guy that was a property manager up in... He fished like that.
You know him. He used to have a really long net, 7-foot net.
Bart Chandler.
Bart, yep.
He still fishes like that.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of the old guys did it. And Ollie and Sandy, they always use pulses. They put 2 to hell. Sometimes I'd see 8 of them on their line. I'm like,
it looked like a sabiki rig.
Yeah. I still use them. I love them. I love them when I'm out on the flats and I'm fishing real light and real shallow water, because it detects the strikes so fast. A piece of yarn or bobber has to pull under. You can watch the pulses just slide, and that fish is eating it.
Interesting.
Yep. They're a little harder for people to learn how to cast, because there's no weight involved with them. As where like a bobber kind of throws it out there for you.
Sure.
A yarn a little bit, since it's not aerodynamic, so it kind of has a little bit of resistance. But pulses, there's nothing on there, so it's a little harder for people to learn. And it's real important with that rig to make sure that your rig lands out there straight, so that when your weight and your two nymphs land behind them, it's all in a straight line, so it stays tight the whole way through. Because if there's a slack in between, those fish on the frying pan, that's where they've gotten very smart, is they can pick something up and spit it out so fast. They're incredibly light when they bite up there. That's just how they've evolved to being pressured up there. So I use those at some point, but I tend to not do the same thing day after day. I do find myself going into those habits, but I do try to mix it up a little bit. And, I'll even run the hopper dropper up there. Why not? It'd be something fun, it all works.
Yeah.
It's amazing how sensitive they are to beads in the pan, in the upper pan. Mm-hmm. Colored bead heads.
Oh, they don't like them. I think I don't fish beaded flies on the frying pan. I fish really natural, non-flashy flies. That's just my trick on the frying pan. I don't fish beaded flies at all, just because so many people come in. But I've watched people out there Euro nymphing, and they're throwing a beaded fly, and I've watched them catch fish out there. But just my style on the frying pan, something I've evolved to, is I don't fish a lot of beaded flies on the frying pan. The Roaring Fork, I fish beaded flies during superhero season in July, when all the bugs are hatching, the fish are going crazy. But I tend to veer away from them later in the season. I kind of get away from beaded flies a little bit more out on the Roaring Fork. Not saying that a beaded fly wouldn't work, but me personally, my style, I kind of tend to stay away from them. Fish a lot more natural stuff. Definitely more flash out on the Roaring Fork. And then the Colorado, I pretty much always have a beaded fly on my line, because I want that weight. I want it to get down in the water column and get down and stay down in that fish's zone.
Deeper water too, right?
And even though it's deeper water, it's just where those fish are suspended in the water column due to the hatches. Some days there's not many hatches, and they're down there 8-10 feet down. Mm-hmm. Some days there's a big hatch, and they're just a foot or two below the surface. So you're not fishing much weight at all.
Right.
Not very heavy flies.
Yeah. Have you ever targeted the real big fish in the Colorado with like a sink tip fly line?
Absolutely.
And just streamer fish all day, or like over a period of 2 or 3 days?
That's like the typical way to streamer fish.
But I know, but how many people do you do that just looking for that 8-pound brown?
I had an era in my life when I did.
Was it pretty effective?
Yeah, we caught some big fish. I wouldn't ever say I caught anything that was like mind blowing, out of the Colorado. I've seen some of my biggest fish have been on some of the smallest nymphs out in that river.
Really?
Sometimes it's a big stonefly nymph that they want. Sometimes it's, it's just luck of the draw, if that fish is up in that water column feeding, But I have spent a good amount of time, because the lower Colorado really did intrigue me. And it still does. I mean, that's such a mysterious river. I mean, we only touch so much of that river as we're floating down it, There's no way to hit the bottom of that river. Some of those holes are over 20 feet deep out there,
what's down there?
Yeah, exactly. They make that new technology, live scope. I'd love to take a live scope. You've heard of live scope?
I fished with it before.
We see them. My buddy's father-in-law has one for ice fishing, and it's blown my mind. It's just like that is so cool. You can watch your lure glide through the water. Mm-hmm. It'd be really cool to take one on that river and actually scan through some of those holes and
Absolutely.
see.
I was going to ask that. Does anybody have like a depth finder or sonar?
We used to have a little handheld one that we held over the side of the boat, the one that showed the little goldfish symbol, like fish.
Yeah.
I think Dahlberg had those on all of his stuff when he was traveling around the world.
Right.
But that's got to be hard, right? Because that transducer is going to go straight down in the bottom of your skiff. And when you go over those shallow sections, they may hit that transducer.
Well, you have a transducer that's up on your boat, just like a flat skiff.
It hangs down, though.
Well, you can buy a pole for them.
Yeah.
You can buy a pole. I mean, they make for live scope, they make a pole that swings down on the side of your boat that you can sit there and spin.
I mean,
then you swing it up.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, it'd be interesting to get in that 20-foot hole and just do mono and get some weight down there and start, pulling stuff through the bottom of those 20-foot holes, I'm thinking that, they've got to be down there quite a bit most of the time.
But the Colorado, it has so much food in it. It is unbelievable. I mean, the way they stocked the past couple of years because of the mudslide, and the way those fish are growing is just unbelievable. It really is. They are putting weight on so fast, blows my mind. But it makes sense. Every time I'm loading up my drift boat, you walk through the shallows, and the amount of like fathead minnows that are in there, or the little chub minnows, it's just unbelievable. Crayfish, frogs. It's just it's endless in that river, how much food. So, and then, you get all the suckers, you get all the sculpin, you get all the different fish.
It's like, how can you get a fish to bite your bug when there's so many natural things floating around?
That's just it. We only touch a percentage of them while we're floating, such a small percentage of what actually lives out in one of those runs. Mm-hmm. It's a mysterious river. It really is.
I was going to say, so there's a lot of unknown to that river as opposed to the Pan and the Upper Fork.
And that's a river there. If those fish don't want to sit in the water column and they don't want to feed, they can go sit out on the bottom and we can't touch them.
Right.
That's where in fly fishing, your limitations with nymphing only go so far. So, and those days suck. They really do when you're on a trip on those days and you catch a handful of fish, but you don't catch that many, and maybe it's in you and what your rig is and what you're running, or, I've just come to terms when those fish want to feed, they're up in the water column, they're up along the banks and they're feeding. When they don't want to feed, they just go out in the middle of the river and they can just sit there and just be happy. And there's plenty of food out there in the middle of the river.
So is it safe to say when a client calls you and says, hey, I want to fish the Colorado River, you get a little more excited than fishing the Pan or the Upper Fork?
I get excited for all of them. I honestly do.
Come on, that's a pleasing answer.
No. I really do, because I do so many different things. Sure, I love the Colorado, but I love the Roaring Fork and I love the Fryingpan. I love them all for their unique fishing ways, I guess is the best way.
Unique unto themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do. I really do. I have seasons where I'm like, I'm so excited to go fish the Colorado because it's the fall fishing and the fish are just so aggressive. They're putting on weight for winter. Then you get days on the Roaring Fork where they're doing the same thing. So I do love being a fishing guide. I love people. I love seeing people have the same passion and excitement for it as what I had in the beginning when I started guiding, Mm-hmm. And I hate to say it, but, I maybe have lost that passion a little bit, but I still love it.
Right.
And
good for you. Otherwise you can't do what you're doing.
No, I'll always be a fishing guide. And I get that question all the time. People are like, what are you going to do when you're not a fishing guide? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'm not really good at anything else. Tying flies.
I know.
Putting a dick on a hopper.
Being creative.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first day guiding?
I do.
Were you nervous?
Oh, absolutely. I remember when Tim told me, because I've worked at Taylor Creek for 25 years. This is my 25th year. I worked 4 years in the store. This is my 21st year as being a fishing guide. So I remember 21 years ago when I was getting ready to turn 18, Tim told me, I was working in the store. He goes, Brandon, I need you to be a fishing guide this summer. And I said, okay. And he goes, you need to go get your CPR first aid certification. I said, okay. Sat at CMC College for one of their 12-hour courses, and because I turned 18 in July. So it was end of June. I remember that room did not have air conditioning. And oh, Lord, was it hot. And there was like 6 of us in this class. So we did the CPR class. And I remember I got my CPR certification. I think my first trip was on like July 5th or 6th. I still have all my logs of all my trips. I've saved every single one of them.
Really?
Yep. I've got them all the way back to 2004.
Every guiding day you have logged.
I have it all logged. I've got a giant stack of
Why?
Why not? Because I can.
That's crazy.
So I remember it was a husband and wife, and I think they never fished. If I remember right, they never fished before. And I remember taking them on the Roaring Fork in the town of Basalt, and I think we caught a total of 4 fish. I think that was it.
They caught fish.
Oh, they caught fish.
awesome.
And I was on cloud 9. I think one of them was about that big. But hey,
You got one.
It's got eyes. It counts. So that was, if I remember right, with my first guide trip 21 years ago, that's what it was. We caught 4 fish and they were ecstatic. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. I like this.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, at that point in my life, my parents always knew I was going to be a fishing guide, but I was still trying to figure out whether I wanted to go to culinary school or if I wanted to go. I thought maybe I'd go into construction management, and then after that first season of guiding, I was like, I want to be a guide. And I remember telling my parents, like, nope, I'm going to stay here and be a guide. And they were fully supportive of it. They were like, yep, we kind of already knew that.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Do you want to encourage your son to be a guide?
Absolutely. I already told him. He's already told me he wants to be a fishing guide. And I told him my boulder, my drift boat is his when he turns 16. I will hold on to it for another 9 years, he's 7. So another 9 years. When he turned 16, I was like, that'll be your 16th birthday present. You will get my old boat and then you can take on all the beaten wear on it and I'll get a new one.
Very cool.
Yep.
That'd be awesome, floating down a river, looking over and knowing that your son's coming down behind you.
Yep. That's what he asked for his 7th birthday. I said, what do you want this year, buddy? He goes, Dad, I want a really nice fly rod. And I said, you do? I said, what fly rod do you want? And he goes, I want a Sage R8. And I was like, you want an R8? And he was like, yep. And I said, okay. So got him a Sage R8, got his name put on it. He loves it. It's too cute. And then this summer, he, we do fishing weekends. This is the first summer in 20 years I've taken weekends off, and I did that so I can be with the family, and all my clients understood that, because last summer I took Sundays off, but 1 day a week's not enough to see your kids.
There's a thing called burnout.
Yep. And so, but I was missing seeing my kids grow up.
Sure.
So this summer we went fishing a lot of weekends, or we did family fun stuff. And I remember this summer I said, do you want to go fishing this weekend? He goes, yeah. But I don't want to fish the Fryingpan. I said, okay. I said, where do you want to go? He goes, somewhere else. And I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? Let's go to the Tailor River, buddy. That'd be fun. He was like, yeah. So we loaded up. We drove over Kebler Pass and went over to the Tailor River, and caught a few fish over there. Remember, he caught a pretty good one. Probably 22, 23-inch rainbow on a Drake Dry over there. He was too cute seeing a 7-year-old out there with that fish. And then we drove down to the Gunnison to look for salmon. We didn't find any salmon.
Yeah.
We found some trout, but those are the special days you'll never forget.
Yeah. What is the one thing that you hope will be maintained throughout the rest of your guiding life that will keep you sustainable?
I mean, I don't know.
The joy of fishing.
Well, I'll always have a joy.
It's got to be a joy. You've got to be engaged and just be.
Oh, I love fishing.
It.
Yeah. To sustain guiding, yes, absolutely enjoy fishing. But I love people. I really do. I really like people. I always look forward to seeing people, and hearing their stories. I haven't seen them in a year. And hell, sometimes you don't see people and you haven't seen them in 5 years. You're like, what happened? They're like, oh, I started fishing in Montana or Wyoming, and, this place has a draw to it, and it always brings people back.
Sure.
It's incredible. It's beautiful, great fishing. So, I guess that's the sustaining being for me to be a fishing guide, and I love my job. I love our fishing guides in our Roaring Fork Valley. We have such a unique place with all the fishing guides in the Roaring Fork Valley. It doesn't matter who works for who. We are all friends in the valley, and that's the bannering, of going. And I would say it's more so with floating versus wading. I feel like wading, it's a little bit, you do get the bannering, especially when you do group trips with your fellow guides. But I feel like floating, everybody's down there in the morning. We're all doing the same thing. We're putting our boats in the river. We're all teasing one another, you know. And you can tell when a guide has someone new, and, you know, you start messing with them, you know, like, oh, God, when did you get out of prison? And they're like,
Haven't seen you in 8 months.
How was rehab? You look great. And their clients are like, oh, my God, who's our fishing guide? You know, and that's the thing I love so much about being a fishing guide. And that was something that I idolized being a kid growing up. It's just like, you know, I always idolized all the fishing guides and like, wow, this is such a cool thing that they do. I mean, they take people fishing for a living.
Yeah, the camaraderie and talking about the trip afterwards. Yeah, yep. I think Taylor Creek has a really tight-knit group of guides where, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are very open to share information. Everybody helps one another, and for the most part, and you guys are pretty tight-knit. Yeah,
and, you know, there's, you know, we're always, you know, every guide always keeps some of his secrets. You can't give them all, you know. But, you know, if people ask, you know, like, man, I'm just, you know, they see you floating down the river, catching the heck out of them. They're like, man, what are you using? You know, and you tell them, you know. I've always, you know, I want to see everybody succeed. Yeah.
I've called you and you've shared information with me.
Oh, yeah. I want to see everybody succeed, you know.
I was in the canyon of the Henry's Fork one time, long time ago. And there was a black man below me catching like fish one after the other. And I didn't know him at all. And all of a sudden I was over there and I said, I hope you don't mind this. And I opened his zippers and just started going through his fly box. I just walked over to him and I got his fly box over. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I just want to see your stuff. And then we started talking. He was very friendly, but I was just like, I didn't care. I had to know. And I just went over and trespassed upon his whole property. And it was just like the weirdest thing ever.
I've had people do that where they walk over and like look at my rods in the boat, see what I'm running. I'm like, go ahead.
So many of the saltwater guys just cut their flies off before you get back to the dock.
I've heard that. I don't know. I mean, I've kind of, you know, worked with other companies and been to other parts of the country. And it's just so interesting how other parts of the country, how the guides interact with one another. And I guess I always kind of thought like, wow, you know, we just don't do that here. For you to get blacklisted here, you have to do something that's so bad because our guides are so nice and friendly and just, you know, we're one big happy family. And I'm talking about not just the guides at Taylor Creek. I'm talking about the guides through the whole
Guide Alliance.
Yeah, the whole Roaring Fork Valley, you know, everybody, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, I guess my perspective of it is we're all doing the same thing. We're taking people fishing down the river, and thankfully our rivers are loaded with fish. And everybody catches fish and have a great day. And, you know, everybody has a rough day. I have a rough day from time to time. Everybody has a rough day. Sure. You can't tell me that there's not one guide in this area that doesn't go a few days a year and like, man, I just had a rough day, you know, just all about staying positive.
It's interesting how that works because in the Keys, I mean, there's times where a guide will cut in front of another guide and the guide on the receiving end will hold that grudge for years.
I've heard saltwater captains are a different breed.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are great people and extremely nice, but there are some that, man, if you do one thing wrong one day, you are going to have a bad name in that guy's head for a long time.
And that guy will tell everybody else what a dick you are.
And they're going to talk shit.
Yeah.
Yep. I guess we're just really nice around here. So I don't know.
Keep it that way.
Yeah. No, I've heard saltwater captains can be something else.
In the old days, all the captains used to yell at their customers. I mean, really, like yell, like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like, but they're doing the best they can. You can't yell at anybody.
I can't
like
even
the casting thing, you know.
Try to teach someone how to double haul, you know. And I get it, you know, in that perspective, you know, you've worked hard all day and here's your shot and get it out there, you know. And, you know.
It's hard. The salt game is much different.
I mean, thankfully, with being a trout guide, it's like, well, okay, you missed that pocket, but you're in luck. There's another one right there.
Right.
Throw it in that pocket. Nope, that one didn't work. Let's try the next pocket. You got another 7 miles.
There's nothing worse than waiting all day for 2 shots or 1 shot.
It's
hard.
That's something that I've had to start learning in saltwater fishing. First time I got a saltwater fish was on Kauai. And I remember going out there with the guide and we're walking across the flats and I had no idea what a bonefish looked like. I'm thinking it's like a carp, you're looking for a dark shape out there, not like a shade of blue different from the blue water already. And I remember walking around with him and he goes, oh, right there, 30 feet, 12 o'clock. Do you see him? I'm like, nope. just should I cast? And he's like, sure. I remember casting that. And he was like, no, you landed it right on him. And I was like, oh, my bad. And I remember the next shot I had, I saw the bonefish. I was like, yeah, I see it. I was like, where do you want me to put it? He goes, put it right on him. And I cast it and I put it right on. I scared the bonefish. He goes, a little further away. And I was like, okay, I'm new to this,
Yeah. You told me right on him.
Yeah. So,
well, look, you've got a great life here in the Roaring Fork Valley. You got 3 kids, and I remember when I was just teaching him how to do what he does now, and it goes by so quickly. It really does. Look where you are now in your life. And all those years before when we were doing it for the first time.
Yeah,
it's a magical thing.
Yeah,
Brandon, thanks for coming on, buddy. A lot of people look up to you in this valley, and I'm proud to call you a friend. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you guys.
Thank
you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, for
This was
sure.
fun.
I'd love to fish with you one day. I want to see the magic.
Let's go fish.
Yeah, that'd be great. The 3 of us.
I'll take you out on the boat.
I'll row.
I'll take you out on the big boat. The one where I don't have to run. The one where I have an electric trolling motor.
Well, thank you so
All right,
much.
thanks, Brandon.
Thank you guys. Yep.
When I saw his best story, when I saw it's just a